Dream, everyone. And today we're going to be exploring the fantastic revisionist biography by Nicholas Farrell called Mussolini, A New Life. And okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to be looking at this book in some detail and analysis. Mussolini, A New Life, a revisionist portrait of Il Duce, then Prime Minister of Italy. And then we're going to explore another biographer who isn't translated to English, but we do have some summaries of these books, and so I'll explore a little bit of that. And that other biography is separated in like the 4 volumes. It's like 6,000 pages long, and it goes more into detail than this one. This goes into good enough detail for now what we have, but until we can translate that other biography, which was written over a span of decades. This is about as in depth as you're going to get, because a lot of these other ideas we're talking about Mussolini as philosophers, as intellectuals, and how this religion was developed and then finally created by Mussolini. We've gone to like Mussolini's intellectuals book. They call it fascism philosophy. We've delved into that, and fortunately, there are some other books, but none that really goes more into the economics or even goes deeper into the infrastructure kind of reorganizing that Mussolini did. So that's the other biography, and I'll touch on that a little bit. I'll give the person's name, and so you can look it up yourself. And if you can read Italian, great, great. I hope that'll be an extra. That'd be a plus if you're fluent. I'm not fluent in Italian, unfortunately. If I were to translate that book, it would take a long time, and I probably wouldn't be very good at it. But anyway, that's another thing. Let's get into the introduction here of Mussolini, A New Life by Nicholas Farrell. I recommend reading it. It was published in 2003, and it stands as a more provocative and sort of revisionist biography of Benito Mussolini, the Italian prime minister. I'm going to call him a prime minister. I'm not going to refer to him as a dictator he wasn't totalitarian either. He was you would say he's more of a petty dictator, but I would refer to him as what everybody referred to him at the time to keep it more relevant of that time. From 1922 to 43, he was the prime minister of Italy. And they call him that. And when he was very, very popular and highly revered in the 20s as a prime minister. So I'll refer to him as prime minister. Okay, the Italian prime minister who ruled from 1922 and 1943, Farrell, he was a British journalist who resided in Predappio, Mussolini's birthplace, often dubbed the fascist Bethlehem, challenges the post-war consensus that portrays Mussolini as a mere opportunist, buffoon, or unmitigated villain. Instead, Nicholas Farrell presents him as nuanced, if controversial, depiction of Mussolini as a complex figure, a revolutionary socialist at heart, masterful propagandist, and the leader who modernized Italy while ultimately dooming it through fatal miscalculations. It's a more accurate portrait of Mussolini. Drawing on newly discovered materials, this is important, and sympathetic lens, Farrell argues that fascismo was not an aberration, but a deeply rooted religion. Read fascist philosophy and read the book Mussolini's Intellectuals to delve even deeper in this religion that garnered genuine support from critical masses of Italians. Go read Fascism, A View for America. He was highly revered in America during this time as well. So this is going to be more accurate portrayal of the prime minister of Italy, Mussolini, and what really went on during most of the 20s. All the 20s up until the mid-30s. So Farrell contends that Mussolini's regime, for much of his existence, operated with consent rather than sheer terror, positioning fascism as a third way between capitalism and communism. The essay summarizes the book's key content, structured around its chronological and thematic chapters. So before we analyze Farrell's approach here, its strengths and its criticism, it has elucidated. Okay, so to recap that again, we're gonna kind of summarize the book and analyze certain aspects of it that show that it was mostly done through consent, the voters. There's another interesting book that came out, I think, maybe in the late 60s, early 70s, about the voters, the Italian voters who voted for, and Mussolini had the consent of the voters. That's an interesting book, the voting habits of the Italians during this time, the 20s. We have the late 1910s to the early 20s. I forgot the name of the book, but if you know the name of the book, yeah, let me know about it. Okay. So the summary of this book, Farrell's biography traces Mussolini's life from his humble origins to its gruesome end. Emphasizing ideological evolution, political maneuvers, and interplay between personal ambition and historical forces. The narrative of the book is divided into thematic sections that highlight his rise, consolidation of power, policies, foreign adventures, and downfall. So here's the first part of the book here, the early life and the ideological foundations from socialism to fascismo. Let's see. So Mussolini was born on July 29th, 1883 in Predappio to a socialist blacksmith father and a devout Catholic mother, influences that shaped his early worldview. Farrell details how young Mussolini embraced revolutionary socialism. Remember, all these people, Lenin, Stalin, Mussolini, Hitler, Mao, etc., these are all revolutionaries. They were not reactionaries. They were revolutionaries. Hitler's German Revolution, the Lenin-Stalin Revolution, Mussolini's Revolution, etc., Mao. These are all revolutions. They're not reactionary. So we have to crush this popular consensus narrative that's been promulgated to the universities, to Marxist professors, that no, these dictators were not reactionaries. They presented themselves as an alternative form of socialism and another revolution of revolutionary socialism. And it was still all based and couched on the power dynamics of Marxist theory. So they all borrowed from Marx and Hegel too, by the way. That's why I have the synthesis thing going up there, because definitely when you read Mussolini's writings, he's borrowing heavily from Hegel. Okay. So Farrell details how young Mussolini embraced revolutionary socialism, becoming the editor of a socialist newspaper, you know this already, Avanti, and advocating for class struggle. However, World War I marked a pivotal shift. Mussolini broke with pacifist socialists, supporting Italy's intervention for national rejuvenation, viewing war as the catalyst for social transformation. This is also part of the social transformation of socialism, too, because when psychologists were figuring out why the people of countries were becoming more nationalized, so to speak, and more inspired, they were inspired by things like war. That's how they became a little more nationalistic. There were psychologists that were studying the masses. That's Gustav Le Bon's book, which was very inspirational to Lenin and other socialists, because they felt that socialism of the 19th century was a failure because the proletariat was not rising. Nothing was happening. There was no revolution happening in England. And because of that, they said, well, it failed. It didn't start out spontaneously, organically. So we have to kind of give it a push based on the study of psychology and psychology of people and the masses. So this is Mussolini's kind of following in this order here, that you have to rejuvenate socialism so you can give it a more revolutionary tint that needed a little more push rather than just letting it form organically. So expelled from the Socialist Party, he founded Il Popolo d'Italia, blending nationalism with leftist ideals. Absolutely. He was a leftist, not a liberal. Post-war Italy's chaos, economic collapse, strikes, and Bolshevik fears provided fertile ground for Mussolini's reinvention. In 1919, he established the Fasci di Combattimento, a movement fusing hyper-nationalism, anti-communism. Think of Mussolini's fascism as a rival to communism, not an enemy, and authoritarianism. Farrell portrays this as opportunistic yet ideological consistent. Mussolini remained at heart a socialist revolutionary. That's right, this is a revolution, not a reactionary. Rejecting bourgeois liberalism in favor of state supremacy and the glorification of violence. The black shirts, squadrissimo, paramilitary thuggery, think Antifa, against leftists, Antifa against the Jews, paved the way for his ascent as industrialists and landowners funded the fascists to counter communism. Because it was a rival. Fascism was a rival to communism, just like Hitler's National Socialism was a rival to Stalin's communism. These are rivals, not reactionaries. These are all rival revolutionaries. Okay, so the March on Rome. This is pretty funny, though, when you read about what actually happened with the March on Rome. So the March on Rome and the consolidation of power. So the book's second chapter of Mussolini: A New Life section focuses on the 1922 March on Rome, depicting it not as a violent coup, but a calculated bluff. That's right. With 30,000 black shirts converging on the capital, King Victor Emmanuel III, fearing civil war, appointed Mussolini prime minister at age 39. Farrell argues this event ended liberal democracy in Italy, but with minimal bloodshed, underscoring Mussolini's strategic acumen. So, but basically what it was, the March on Rome really was a series of train trips, and the whole ordeal was settled between the king, Victor Emmanuel, and Mussolini over phone calls. That's right. It was settled by phone calls. So the whole thing was not a bloody march on Rome. It was a series of train trips that ended in King Victor Emmanuel capitulating and telling, hey, Mussolini, I'm still king. Victor Emmanuel was saying this. I'm still king of Italy. I own Italy. But you, the PNF party there, you can have the government and your black shirts can be your own police. But I have my own state police. And whatever I say pretty much goes. I am still the king of Italy. I own Italy. You do not. You have the government just fine. That was the deal. And it ended in phone calls. So great March on Rome. Just ended a bunch of phone calls. Go read that. I mean, that's pretty funny, actually. It was just kind of a joke. Anyway, so once in power, Mussolini dismantled opposition through legal and extra-legal means. That's right. He did this through law. A nation of laws. So he passed a bunch of laws. He made this legal and extra legal means to dismantle the opposition. So he had consent. The 1923 Acerbo law rigged elections for fascist dominance, while propaganda cultivated the cult of Il Duce. When they say propagated the cultivation, cultivated the cult of El Duce, it reminds me of Ceausescu too, when he visited North Korea and he propagated the cult of El Duce in Romania. So that's a funny little side story there. The 1924 murder of socialist deputy Giacomo Matteotti triggered a crisis, but Mussolini weathered it by assuming dictatorial powers in 1925, banning parties, establishing the OVRA secret police. Sounds like Antifa. Farrell emphasizes that fascism's totalitarianism, which it was achieved through intimidation and legalization, creating a one-party state that embedded ideology into daily life. Sounds like the Democratic Party. Okay, he contends that Italians consented to this, viewing Mussolini as a savior for anarchy. Yep, that's right. Go. If I remember the name of that book about the voting habits of Italians during this time and how they had consent. They figured, hey, you got to get things under order here through legal means, and a little bit of intimidation. Kind of like what happened during COVID. Okay, Farrell dedicates, domestic, now we're going to go into the domestic policies, corporatism, quote unquote, because it wasn't real corporatism, and social engineering. Farrell dedicates significant space to Mussolini's internal reforms, framing them as ambitious attempts to forge a united society. Remember, the symbol of fascismo, and the word fascismo actually means sticks or rods or people that are bundled together with the axe on top. So forced collectivization. So you wanted to, so unity through strength or strength through unity. Think the Borg. Central was corporatism, a third way. That's what it was. It was a third way, just like Hitler's German National Socialism was a third way, a bridge between left and right. A third way economic model outlined in the 1927 Labor Charter, where state-controlled syndicates mediated between workers and employers. Sound like unions. Employers to eliminate class conflict. While this favored industrialist, Farrell notes it provided social welfare innovations like pensions and health insurance that modernized Italy. Hey, imagine that. Socialism. He provided incentives for people not to take responsibility for their foreign financial affairs. Anyway, social policies aimed at regimentation, education, indoctrinated youth through groups like the Opera Nazionale Ballia, while public works such as draining the Pontine marshes symbolized fascist vitality. Campaigns like the Battle for Grain promoted agricultural self-sufficiency, and the Battle for Births encouraged population growth via incentives. Propaganda permeated media, architecture, and spectacles, glorifying Mussolini as infallible. Farrell argues these efforts, though inefficient and oppressive, garnered support by addressing post-war malaise and fostering national pride. Do people not understand how World War II was worse than World War? Do not people understand that World War I was worse than World War II? The damage that it did, and the Versailles Treaty and its failures, and the League of Nations and its failures. What a catastrophe that whole thing was. Now let's go into foreign policy and imperial ambitions. Mussolini's expansionism, driven by the dreams of a new Roman Empire, not wheels of history turning back to the past and tradition. He wanted to recreate Italy from the ground up. He wanted to create a new Roman Empire. Yeah, he's not like, oh, I want to go back to the old ways and old traditions. No, he wanted to reinvent Italy. He wanted to establish a new Roman Empire, so towards a new Dawnism. All socialist utopia, all socialists talk this way, towards a new dawn or a new era or a new time. We can do it. Yes, we can. All that shit. Yeah, it's all the same, just fascist rhetoric, socialist rhetoric. Forms a critical arc. Initially cautious in the 1920s, he turned aggressive in the 1930s. The 1935 invasion of Ethiopia avenged Italy's 1896 defeat, boasting prestige despite League of Nations sanctions. Support for Franco in Spain's civil war drained resources, while the 1936 Rome-Berlin Axis allied with him with Hitler, whom Mussolini privately despised out of necessity. That's right. Let's read that again. Mussolini despised Hitler. He did not want to ally with him. And Hitler did not want to ally with Mussolini either. Hitler's focus was on the Brotherhood of Islam. We all know that now. That's pretty much common knowledge now. And why do you think so many Germans went to Syria and the United Arabist nations after World War II? They did Argentina, but more so in these Arabic countries. Gee, I wonder what they have in common, the Brotherhood of Islam, and Hitler. Wonder what it could be. Well, you know the answer. Okay. Annexations of Albania, 1939, and the disastrous Greek campaign, 1940, exposed military frailties. Farrell, again, we're talking about Farrell's book here, the Mussolini: A New Life by Nicholas Farrell. Farrell blames external pressures, particularly British antagonism under Anthony Eden, for pushing Mussolini into Hitler's orbit. Right? It's true. He betrays these ventures as grandiose nationalism, massing strategic weaknesses, ultimately tying Italy to Germany's fate. Don't forget that Italy aligned with Britain and France to prevent Germany from rearmament. But France and British didn't treat Mussolini equally, and the country of Italy equally as equals in this tripartite pact that they made. If they had actually treated him equally, he probably would have never aligned with Hitler. He probably would have aligned with the Allies instead. Just think about that, how that would have changed the war. Okay, so that was the other part that I wanted to just talk about a little bit, how he allied with Britain and France to prevent the rearmament. And don't forget, also, Mussolini ran to the aid of Austria, too, at the beginning, before the Auschwitz, the unification of Germany and Austria, because he wanted that buffer between him and Germany. And it was all done based on the Versailles Treaty, because Germany wasn't supposed to rearm. So Britain, France, and Italy made a pact to say, hey, let's prevent the rearmament of Germany. Okay, so World War II and the downfall. Here's where it goes down here. Okay, entering the war in 1940 via the Pact of Steel. Remember Hitler and Stalin, they allied with each other. Hitler allied with Great Satan, Stalin. Mussolini sought quick gains against France and Britain. Yeah, because remember, France and Britain were not treating Italy equally in this pact they made against Germany. However, defeats in Greece, North Africa, and at sea revealed Italy's unpreparedness. Even Mussolini knew he wasn't ready. In 1943, Allied invasion of Sicily precipitated crisis. On July 25th, the fascist Grand Council, the Grand Council of Fascism, disposed him, and the king ordered his arrest. Wait a minute. I thought Mussolini was a totalitarian. Oh, that's right. He wasn't. He was a petty dictator. Because you're Nicholas, I almost said the other guy from Russia. Victor Emmanuel, remember, hired Mussolini. And Victor Emmanuel was still the king of Italy, and he still owned Italy. Mussolini did not own Italy. He was just the prime minister, and he owned the government. And so Emmanuel hired Mussolini, and then he fired them. And here's another little interesting fact about this, is that the Grand Council of Fascism voted him out, right? But they didn't know, this is after the fact, that Mussolini was fired by Victor Emmanuel. Victor Emmanuel fired him first, stuck him in the ambulance, and went off. Then the Grand Council of Fascism voted Mussolini out. It was something like 13-9 or something like that. It was pretty unanimous, and they voted him out. Yeah. So okay, just some little side note to think about there. Rescued by German commandos, the Great Escape. Mussolini headed the puppet Italian Social Republic in the north, a shadow regime amid civil war. This is a mistake. Fleeing in 1955 with the mistress, who was half Jewish, Clara Petacci, he was captured by partisans, which are a group of like 30 or 40 thugs, executed them on April 28th. His body mutilated in Milan's Piazzale Loreto. Farrell views this as regime impulsion, where overreach and alliance with Hitler amplified public disillusionment. Absolutely. Mussolini allied with someone he despised, and that created public disillusionment. So I can see why that was. Because remember, when they were executed by the Patriots, Mussolini and his mistress, they hung the bodies out in front of the prison where they were staying, or the hotel they were staying at, right? For most of the day. Then they took the bodies down and drove them to the Milan's Piazzale Loreto. Yeah, so a little known fact. And that's why when you watch the video of that, the old stock film of that event where you see the patrons kicking the bodies of Mussolini and his mistress on the ground, all those people that are laughing are just the patrons, but in the background, the Italians are like, "What the hell's going on here?" Yeah, and I never forget another side story is that the Allies were on their way to negotiate a sort of maybe some kind of treaty with Mussolini, but they arrived too late. Okay, so now we kind of go into the end here. Now we consider the legacy and reflection. So in the concluding chapters of this book by Nicholas Farrell called Mussolini: A New Life, Farrell assesses Mussolini's enduring impact, a flawed visionary whose initial success, economic stabilization, infrastructure sowed the seeds of failure through inflexibility and hubris. He humanizes Mussolini, noting his oratorical gifts, sexual exploits, and family life, while challenging myths of him as a mere puppet of Hitler. Exactly. Remember, Mussolini was prime minister of Italy for a good 10 years before Hitler's chancellor. So Hitler wasn't even a little dot on the radar when Mussolini was running Italy. Yeah, Mussolini had the whole. Remember, he had the whole government, but he didn't have Italy. Okay, so now we're going to get into the analysis of Farrell's approach in this book. Farrell's revisionism is the book's core strength and controversy. And remember, that's what revisionism is that you discover new information, or you go discover the archives and you discover more new information that kind of revitalizes, or not revitalizes, but it creates you have to kind of rewrite some parts again because you've learned something new. So that's when they call it revisionist. It's not a negative term. Of course, you're going to revise what you've done because you've learned new information about this person or whatever you're studying, or in every book you're writing. By locating fascism on the left, which it is, as a hierarchical socialism, he echoes historians like, and here's this guy I recommend if you can find his books, Renzo De Felice. If you can find Renzo De Felice, his biographies, they're all in Italian, unfortunately. And if you want to go and do the ambitious work of translating it, because I'm going to get into some of this guy's books, Renzo De Felice, arguing Mussolini remained revolutionary. That's right, not a reactionary. He was revolutionary. This challenges the unprincipled opportunist caricature, emphasizing ideological continuity and popular consent. Farrell's resonance in Predapio lends authenticity, drawing on local lore and archives to portray Mussolini as admired by contemporaries like Churchill and Shaw for modernizing Italy. Strengths include Farrell's stringent prose and focus on Mussolini's fatal error, the Hitler alliance, which he attributes partly to British diplomacy failures. He provocatively claims Mussolini saved more Jews than Oskar Schindler by resisting deportations until 1943, which is true, by the way. He did not want to implement these programs. He hated it, and it was to the consternation of Hitler. If you read the Hitler Table Talk books, Hitler confirms this and says, what's taking Mussolini so long with deporting these Jews? And Mussolini's going, I don't really want to do this. I just made an alliance with you just out of opportunity more than anything else. I despise you, Hitler. So there was always this delay of deporting Jews from Italy. Mussolini didn't want to do it because there was like 10,000 Italian Jews in the fascist party. And his mistress was half Jewish. So you can understand why Mussolini was delaying. He's like, screw you, Hitler. Framing his anti-Semitism as spiritual rather than racial. Yeah, if he's framing it as spiritual rather than racial, sorry, I didn't mean to say racial, that person can just change their religion, right? Like a Jew can just switch to Catholicism. And that's what happened. They just switched to different religion and they weren't able to expel as many. So aimed at eradicating perceived Jewish psyche. This invites reflection of fascism's nuances, such as its corporate state influencing modern welfare models. Okay, so now there's going to be some criticism of this by Dennis Mack Smith. It is, I don't know if I really want to go too much to the criticism because it's, see what I could go into a little bit of criticism, just a little bit. Like I said, go read the book yourself. Go read the whole book yourself. We're almost done here with the conclusion of this book, summary analysis, and then I'm going to get into Felice's biography a little bit. Let's see. However, about reviewers like Jones, some guy named Jones, accused Farrell's of hagiography, relying on uncritical fascist sources and propaganda without rigorous evidence. But isn't that rigorous evidence? What else am I going to depend on, too? I got to draw on many different sources, too. I got to draw on primary sources, memoirs, and local accounts of what was happening. Plus, I got to draw on these propaganda and see if it's kind of bottlenecks to a truth. They claim there's some logical leaps equating doctrine with consent, undermining claims while cliches and pot shots comparing fascism third way to New Labor, which it was. Dilute scholarly depth. Dennis Mack Smith deems it naive, ignoring Mussolini's tyrannical realism and war crimes. Well, the whole point of the book isn't focusing so much on if there were war crimes. The book was focusing on Mussolini and new life, and portraying it as a lot more nuanced and probably more realistic about the man who was prime minister of Italy, rather than the standard narrative, which is fine. Good. I'm glad we have revisionist stuff. Farrell's minimization of violence, absolving Mussolini for murders by noting his fury, overlooks his role in unleashing Squadrissimo. But you understand, people downplay Stalin and Lenin and Mao. Okay, so I guess other Marxist university professors can downplay the horrors under Mao and Stalin and Lenin. Oh, but we can't do it with anybody else. I mean, you probably shouldn't be really downplaying it. You should recognize what happened, but was it really as bad as the other ones? Other regimes that did worse? Um, okay, so this book's restoration tone from non-neutral base. It kind of does risk non-risking romanticizing a dictatorship, petty dictator, especially amid Italians' boast communist debates on fascism legacy. Yeah, I know. Exactly. They want to make communism look like the better. Comparatively, Farrell aligns with De Felice's emphasis on consensus, but overcorrects against anti-fascist historiography, potentially excusing authoritarianism. Okay, maybe. His work provokes debate on power's moral relativity, reminding readers of democracy's fragility in turbulent times. Okay, so the conclusion here, even with the criticism, Mussolini, A New Life by Nicholas Farrell is bold, maybe some flaws, reevaluation that humanizes a reviled figure while dissecting fascism's appeal and perils. Farrell's summary reveals a man shaped by contradiction, socialist roots clashing with imperial dreams, leading to Italy's transformation and tragedy. Analytically, it succeeds in challenging stereotypes, but falters in balance, often veering into apology. Well, you can read, if you want to know about apology, I can think of one book popped in my head is the Soviet, the psychiatric wards. That's kind of apologetic towards Lenin. Ultimately, the book underscores fascism enduring lessons, how charisma and ideology can seduce societies, and the catastrophic cost of unchecked ambition. In an era of rising populism, Farrell's portrait remains cautionary, contentious read. So I recommend it. It's probably is the best biography. Now I'm going to go into Renzo De Felice. His biographies, unfortunately, they're not in English. They're all in Italian. So Renzo De Felice was a prominent Italian historian renowned for his extensive scholarship on Italian fascism, Benito Mussolini, and related topics during the 20th century. His works are often considered foundational in the field, offering detailed revisionist perspectives based on archival research. While much of his output is in Italian, several key titles have been translated into English. So below, I'm going to recommend some of his most influential books, and I'll focus on those that are accessible and impactful for you readers out there that are interested in fascismo history. These recommendations draw from his bibliography, prioritizing his multi-volume Mussolini biography as his crowning achievement. Okay, so remember, this Mussolini biography by Renzo De Felice is 6,000 pages long. It's massive. It's a magnum opus. And if you were to translate to English, that's pretty ambitious, but it's well worth it. I'll give you some books here that are in English, but the main one is the multi-volume biography, Mussolini. So from 1964 to 1997. This is De Felice's magnum opus, a comprehensive 8-part biography spanning over 6,000 pages that traces Benito Mussolini's life from his socialist roots to his downfall. It's divided into volumes like Mussolini, El Rivoluzionariano, focus of 1883 to 1920, focusing on his early revolutionary years. Then Mussolini, El Fascista, La Conquista del Potere, 1921 to 1925, on seizing power, and later ones covering his alliance with Hitler and World War II. If you're planning to do a diving deep into Mussolini eras, especially after reading the book by Nicholas Farrell, Revisionist Take, this series provides unparalleled detail, challenging simplistic views of fascism as mere opportunism. Unfortunately, like I said, it's not fully translated in English, but individual volumes are available in Italian or partial translations. Start with Volume 1. So if you're new to this and is an essential to historians, it's lengthy, even for casuals, but I highly recommend it. So here's a book that is actually in English. It's called The Jews and Fascist Italy, a History. This is 1961, English translation. Originally published as an Italian name. I'm not going to read it because my Italian is terrible. The Jews and Fascist Italy. This book examines the treatment of Jews under Mussolini's regime from the 1920s through the racial laws of 1938 and into World War II. De Felice argues that Italian fascism's anti-Semitism was more opportunistic and less ideologically driven than the German National Socialists, drawing on extensive documents to highlight complexities like Mussolini's initial protection of Jews. That's one of them. And don't forget his mistress was half Jewish, and there were 10,000 Italian Jews in the fascist party. So the English edition, translated by someone named Robert Miller, with a preface by Michael Ledeen, makes it accessible. So I recommend this book for anyone interested in the intersection of fascism and anti-Semitism. It's very rigorous, but more concise than the other Mussolini series. Okay, number 3, book 3 here by De Felice. Fascism, an informal introduction to its theory and practice, 1976. So this is an interview-based book conducted by Ledeen, where De Felice discusses fascism's origins, characteristics, and comparisons to German National Socialism and totalitarianism. He positions Italian fascism as unique third way movement rooted in middle-class aspirations rather than pure reactionism. At around page 128, you might find it's an excellent entry point. Conversational, insightful, and free of jargon. If you're looking for a quick but thoughtful overview of De Felice's ideas on fascism today, this is ideal. So once again, Fascism, an informal introduction to its theory and practice, 1976, by De Felice. Okay, now we get into a brief history of fascism that was published in 2000. It's a concise synthesis of De Felice's views on fascism's rise, ideology, and legacy in Italy. It covers key events from 1919 to 1945, while emphasizing fascism's popular consensus and revolutionary aspects. It's available in Italian, with some editions including essays on fascist identity. This is a great mid-length read. It's around 200 pages. So for those wanting to a standalone history without committing to like a full biography, it's not really widely translated, but there is English summaries or related works can be supplemented to it. Okay. Supplement here, additional notes about De Felice works can be controversial due to the revisionist bent. See, that's not a negative thing. I don't want to say revisionist. We always revise things in history. That's part of scholar work. You know, as you learn more information, of course, you're going to be revising things as you go along because you're learning things new. Like we know more about what caused the Populesian War, even though it happened, long time ago, because we discover new information. We update it. We're going to revise it. So this is not a negative. I know what you don't say is a negative. Don't think of it as revision as a negative. Think of it as what scholars do. Read in Defense of History by Richard Evans. That's an excellent book. That goes into more detail. Okay, so some critics see that De Felice was sort of downplaying fascism's brutality, but they're valued for their depth and evidence-based approach. If English is your preference, prioritize the translated titles above. Okay, for the full Mussolini series, you might need Italian proficiency. Well, go for it. Learn Italian. Academic resources. You might want to check Amazon too, maybe Thrift Books or Aid Books. I mean, your library, of course, and some out of print but accessible secondhand. So if you have a specific focus on these years of fascism, I recommend De Felice's works. So, once again, there's no English edition of these multi-volume biography of Benito Mussolini. The one that's included specifically is Mussolini Il Duce volumes, which cover the years of 1929 to 1940 as part of a larger series. So the entire work here, it's huge. The entire work spans 6,000 pages across 8 books, published between 1965 and 1997. And it only remains available in its original Italian. That is a crime. If you really want to dig deep and want to know about Mussolini, well, I'm going to have to learn Italian. Because that's 6,000 pages and 8 books. If you can find any of those 8 books, great. Some of them are kind of hard to find, expensive, but they're well worth it. It goes into detail. Let's see. We already covered the books here. So let's go over, let's go over 2 books, just to kind of give you a flavor. about Renzo De Felice's multi-volume biography of Benito Mussolini, 8 books. So volume 1, 1929-1936, this volume examines the period often described as the years of consensus, when the fascist regime achieved its broadest base of support in Italian society. De Felice analyzes the regime's internal challenges, including the impact of the Great Depression on the economy, and how Mussolini navigated these to strengthen his control. Always, never let a crisis go to waste. Key themes include the regime's efforts at social economic modernization, such as public works programs, corporatist economic structures, and cultural initiatives to foster national unity. The book dedicates significant space to the regime's policies amid the global economic crisis. Man, I want to read that. Mussolini's consolidation of power and the building of totalitarian framework while maintaining apparent popular approval. That's some balance. De Felice argues this era represented fascism's progressive and revolutionary aspects, with Mussolini positioning Italy as a modern state. Right. And wanted to be treated like a modern state, but Britain and France said, nah. That was a mistake. That was to the detriment of Mussolini, and it was to the detriment of France and Britain. Because, World War II pretty much weakened the British Empire. Okay, Volume 2, La Stato Totalitario, 1936 to 1940. So building on the previous volume, this installment deepens the exploration of consensus, illustrating how the regime's development was inextricably tied to Mussolini's personal charisma and leadership style. De Felice details the shift towards a more overtly totalitarian state with increased centralization and ideological indoctrination. Sounds like socialism. Crucial events covered include Italy's intervention in the Spanish Civil War, diplomatic maneuvers with Britain and France, we just talked about in accordance to the League of Nations, and the evolving relationship with German National Socialism, Hitler's Germany. The narrative traces the fraught path to the Axis alliance. Yeah, I know, fraught, you can say that again, culminating in the 1939 Pact of Steel, which bound Italy more closely to Hitler's orbit. Domestically, the volume discusses the regime's racial laws, cultural policies, and preparations for war while portraying Mussolini as pragmatically balancing ambitions against Italy's limited resources. Okay, so go check out Nicholas Farrell's Mussolini's A New Life. I recommend that biography. And look up Renzo De Felice. Now I'll put his name in the chat box there, so you can find his works. If you can read Italian, great. Okay, so I'm going to put his name in there. There you go. There's his name, Renzo De Felice. And I'd like to look at some of those books or get them in the future date, maybe attempt some sort of translation, or maybe find some people that have already been translating it. I'm sure you can find it online somewhere. But that concludes my presentation and video essay on the analysis, the kind of review of Mussolini: A New Life by Nicholas Farrell. Let me put that in the box there so you can look at that title there and go check it out. So go find those if you can. Hey, but thanks for coming out, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video presentation, the essay portion of this show. Now we get to the really exciting part where we get to the game. So let me switch over to my Be Right Back thumbnail. There you go. I'm not sure I got that back on there. Yep. Give it a second there. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things in there that go into detail. Now, this picture here, this video is interesting. It's supposed to be, well, I made it a video, but the picture is Mussolini walking on the beach, and it represents his sort of spiritual philosophy. Why is it not reloading here? I'm refreshing my page. So it focuses more that the video there is focusing more on Mussolini's spiritual attitude toward the fast-paced society at the time. Everything's moving fast. Remember the 1920s, during the late teens, 1920s, everything's modernizing, everything's moving fast-paced. So Mussolini depicts him as someone who's walking on this beach above it all with his head high above the fast pace, the motion, the ebbing and flowing of the waves representing the modern society at the time. But at the same time, he's not avoiding modernization. He's still embracing it, but he's not letting it take him out to sea or dragging him down to this. He's above it, but yet he embraces it, but he doesn't let it destroy him. That's pretty much what that video depicts there. Hope that's helpful. Okay, I will be right back. Give me a few minutes here and enjoy the little video. And if you have any questions, go ahead and post it in the chat there, and I'll try to answer the questions based on what we did. So once again, I did a review and analysis of both Nicholas Farrell's book, Mussolini's A New Life, and Renzo de Felice's 8-volume set, 6,000 pages biography, the most in-depth biography on the Prime Minister of Italy, Benito Mussolini. All right, I'll be right back. Just hold your horses here. I have to get some coffee. Be right back. Okay, I got my coffee and ready to go here for the second part of the show, which is uh, just a little game. I like to do this. This is kind of the style I like to do. You know, focus more on I've been focusing a lot on Mussolini because there's not a lot of really information about it. I mean, there's a lot of information there, but most of it's in Italian, and it's a lot of it's hard to find. A lot of it's not available in English. Um, I just, yeah, it'd be nice to get that Felice. Man, that goes into probably the most detailed depth of Mussolini than any other biography. I thought Robert Service wrote a biography on Mussolini, but I was wrong. I know, yeah, the Stalin one, but kind of disappointed to learn that he never wrote a biography, Mussolini. If you guys know of any other biographies, I have the autobiography of Mussolini, and I have Nicholas Farrell's. But you always see the game portion of this show is always the least popular. People just leave. I don't blame them, but I just do this because I'm just I just want to have a little fun and had a hard day at work. So it's Friday night. Join me for the model build. I'm going to be continuing the motor nuclear. Motor nuclear model kit. This time I'm going to continue with the legs. Let's see. Hey, we got a lot more people out this time. Wow, where was the peak there? 5 people? No one said anything? I don't make snazzy videos, you know what I mean? I don't make like little 15-minute bread tube, high edited, glossy, all the fan. I don't do that stuff. I rather just put some kind of like very slow moving background to my video where I just talk and you just focus more on what I'm talking about rather than some idiot standing in front of a green screen with a bunch of filters over it, and confetti flying around. That's just distracting. I mean, I could just be in front of a green screen. I do have the green carpet, whatever. Here's that thing that is for the background. I could, but why? Wow. But they'll leave. No one likes the game shit, man. I might just abandon the game portion and just focus on a longer political video. Actually, I'm going to go into more Ayn Rand's objective epistemology books. I'm analyzing her book right now, The Introduction to Objective Epistemology by Ayn Rand, and I'm going to maybe do just a video on that and no game. I'll focus on the reading of the book and the analysis of it. That would be more fruitful. Okay, I'm gonna make a run for it in here. Okay, he killed himself. But my Mussolini here stuff seems to be getting a lot of traction. I don't know what more I can do without maybe attempt translation of De Felice's book. 8 volumes. Holy crap. That's some depth right there. If I could find just some translations of it, I can go a little deeper and I can just pick apart, certain aspects of the regime. Because people would like to know more about it. Okay, let's see. Wow. Nah, I couldn't get that flag, that last flag. I don't focus on like current events. I don't give a damn about most current events because they're just too current. You have no history. You don't have that buffer to adequately analyze what's happening. A buffer, I'm talking about like years, decades, centuries. Current events is you can't I mean, it's like you could analyze it, but it's not going to be accurate. Yeah, I get sick of those just typical just garbage videos. Everyone just grifting off, current events. They're not really providing anything of substance or anything very important. They're not influencing. Most of these quote influencers aren't influencing anybody. Just look at some of the core philosophers in history and what kind of influence they had on political leaders. And then you look nowadays and go, who philosopher or any political philosopher has any influence on any leaders nowadays? You think Tim? Sehr gut. My Overschützen. Gute Arbeit, Kameraden. That most people's takes on the current events, modern events, are usually just wrong because not really sure what they're looking at, what's happening. Event, there's guessing. They don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. A lot of these, especially like political events. A lot of that stuff just slop. It's just garbage. It just gets people all mad over nothing. It gets mad over events that you have no control over. It's one thing. It's one thing to look at modern events and any kind of event that's happening now and quote analyze it and just get mad. That's easy to do. Anybody can do that. But to maybe do something about it, maybe writing a letter to the representative or something, or maybe writing writing some kind of response to an article on the internet somewhere. Writing an article, yourself would be good. They have Substack for that, or you can just write to the editor of a website, or you can just write to a columnist, and you just write to them directly and provide them with some kind of critique, rather than just sit there behind your microphone and just get mad, get mad and pretend like you're analyzing a news event, current event, and then getting mad at it and say, well, what's the point of that? What's the benefits of that, and who benefits from it? If you're not benefiting from it at all, if your life isn't improving because of it, well, probably it's something to do with your fault, and it's also the fault of the slop you're watching. It's not helpful. Whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, provide something helpful for people. That's why I made so many videos about the topic of Mussolini and fascism, because a lot of people don't know about that. If they knew more about it, they would know that a lot of the policies they vote for the representative are actually the same policies that a lot of these socialist regimes have already put into practice. What is economic policies, welfare policies, whatever they are, they've already been done, and they don't work. They're failures. So by studying in depth the economy of, say, the Italian fascism and the philosophy of fascism, you'll see that a lot of the stuff that's happening now is just the same old crap that's already happened. And a lot of the policies that people are voting for and trying have already been done. Have already been and have already been tried, and they failed. They've already been done, and they failed. And that's why I'm providing this kind of information about Mussolini and fascism, because You read it and go, "Hey, this stuff sounds really familiar." These health insurance and labor unions and everything, and it was going, "Man, this sounds really familiar. Like we tried this before." One thing you haven't tried, especially with immigration, a good immigration policy would be one where by invitation only. I'm not talking about a political invitation like from a government. Since I'm an anarcho-capitalist, I don't believe in the government. I want to abolish the government. But if you had like private individuals that are inviting people from different countries, and these private individual can just spend his or her own money to invite whoever they want into their community, whatever. That way, you don't steal the taxpayers' money, and you don't use any kind of force either. You're just inviting who you like, and so you're gonna treat that a lot differently. You're gonna treat immigration differently, psychologically and mentally, if you have to spend your own money and resources on it, rather than depending on a welfare state. The welfare incentivizes because you have to think about what it incentivizes. If you abolish the welfare state, you will incentivize people, an individual, to take care of the money and maybe and focus more on low time preferences. So they think long term. Yeah, abolish the Social Security, abolish the welfare state, and completely abolish the government. And yeah, you'll see people change their mind about immigration right away. They'll go, wait a minute. Maybe I'm not either for open borders or nor am I for closed borders. Maybe I'm just for people that, like, say I want to invite some people from some country that I like and I have some shared values with it, or I can just spend my own money and resources on it. So so when anything happens, you can either hire a private insurance company, and if anything happens with the immigrants you invited to your community, you're at fault for it, and then you have to pay. You got to pay for the damages. So it will incentivize better behavior without use of force. It'll incentivize people to make the moral decision. So you wouldn't be an advocate for open borders or closed borders. You'd be advocate for people taking responsibility for their money and for the people they invite. Right now, it's like they're government just spending our money, and they have no incentive to care about low time preferences. They're just more about when they would bring anybody want for votes. They bring in anybody want, just they exploit the welfare state. Because that's what's happening. That's what then the people that are government employees don't care. It's not their money anyway. They have no incentive to. If you abolish the government, you would have people work in the private sector, and they'd be more responsible with their money because they have to think, well, there's not going to be any Social Security, so I'm going to actually need to save for the future. But since I just have the welfare state as my incentive, I won't. Who cares? I get this job, and then I'll just get the government's money anyway. Who cares how much they take out of my salary? Well, if they didn't take that much out of your salary in the first place, you could have been investing into the things that you wanted to, and focused on long-term time preferences. This guy, I mean, that's the problem. That's why you study history. Ho, ho, ho. Really? What time is it? 9:35? Huh? I understand. Oh, yeah. Took care of him. Oh, what's that guy doing? No. It's all about incentives. Yeah, so I think the invitation thing is probably the best idea. You think of a better idea, you just keep voting for the same crap over and over again, and then I come up with a better idea like invitation, where you as an individual will invite who you like, and you get to spend your own money. You got to hire a private insurance company, and anything bad happens, you got to take responsibility for it, or you just keep voting for the same crap, and nothing will change. Just keep voting for the same old policy solutions, and nothing will change. And you just keep voting for the same mistakes. And call it progress. Well, if we just keep voting and keep spending more money, oh, that's the magic panacea. That'll eventually, they won't fix it now, but maybe we'll fix it in the future. Well, you've been voting that way think about how long you've been voting that way, forever, and it hasn't changed anything. You got to turn the spigot off, man. You got to turn it off. Get rid of it. Whoa, that's not good. Got all kinds of grenades flying around. Cease fire. Nice. All right, how's everybody doing? This is the game time, game portion of the show. I spent the first hour of this show talking about the book Mussolini: A New Life by Nicholas Farrell, and I recommended the other Mussolini historian, De Felice, and his 8-volume work of 6,000 pages, probably the most in-depth biography on the Prime Minister of Italy, Mussolini. That's not in English, by the way. So feel free to ask me some questions about it if you have any, or you can just go back and watch the beginning of the video. Like I said, I usually split this. For now, I just split this video up into the topic, which is the first hour, and then I do some game for about an hour or so. Eventually, I'll probably just drop the game because no one cares about watching some people play games. Probably just end up just kind of playing just on my free time and not streaming. Not streaming games. Coming. Coming. All right. Now we're getting bored. Now let's see. Let me check the Wolfenstein Enemy Territory server. Play a little bit of that. It doesn't look good over there. Oh boy. They got the subway map going on over there. What about the FA2 silent server? It looks even worse. Yeah, that's even worse over there. Holy crap. Autopilot is on. I'll check back that a little bit. I'll just play a little bit more. I don't know why. Well, I actually made it that far with autopilot. It's kind of fun. Okay. Something in my eye. Whoa. Whoa. Yeah, some people that do content are fortunate enough where they have enough people that follow them to join their live streams where they do games, but they like I said, eventually I'll just cut out the game and just because I know coming up soon I'm gonna be doing a really long, super long video where I provide reading and analysis. See, I got a lot of people coming out this time, but no one commented while I was doing the first part of the show. I usually start at 8:30, and then I go to whatever, like 9:30, usually an hour. A lot of people came, but no one commented. I wish some people would say stuff, but I don't know. Whatever. Bum, 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 bum. Whoa. All right, I'm going to give about 2 more minutes and join the other game and may finish the night off with that. And then you can join me on Sunday morning at around 8 a.m. where I'll be doing the motor nuclear model kit. This time he's doing the legs. I finished the head, the torso, and then I finished the arms, shoulders, and the arms. The shoulders that took a long time just building the shoulders by itself. And including the arms. Now just focusing on the legs. And then we'll have the crotch unit or the skirt, or you can call it the kilt. And then weapons. And it's almost getting done building this figure. But I'm just going to focus on the legs because this model kit is a perfect grade model kit. And it's a lot of parts. And it takes a long time. But it's a lot of fun to do. I have to refine my techniques, though, when I do it. I need to use like a glass file and file off some of the edges. There's other things I need to do to refine it and make it a little bit better. I would like to get a different camera, too. Just little things like that and modify it and make it a little more enjoyable. I don't find too many people actually doing long live streams of model builds, actually. They just make those short little 20-minute videos. And they usually just recommend a lot of products. I subscribed to a couple of model builders, and it's one Japanese guy. He's just advertising different things. Look at this heated X-Acto knife. Look at this new glass file. Look at this new clipper. Vote map. Well, I'm going to map. End of map in 10 minutes. Next map, flash. That one again? Okay. I'm going to switch to Wolf ET. Okay. Let's quit and go. I think the subway map is still there. It'll start to fill up in about 15 minutes. Yeah, I'm preparing the Ayn Rand video right now. The first chapter called Concept Formation. reading it and analyzing. I'm almost done. I think I'm ready to do that one. I might do one more Mussolini video again, so I do as much as I can of that. Yeah, and then the Ayn Rand one's going to be very long, and that's what I'm kind of hoping for, to do a longer one, more in-depth analysis. That one I'm just going to be reading from that book, and then I'm going to do analysis as I go along. Figure, why not? It'd be good for everybody to learn more about objective epistemology and how that application could be applied to anarcho-capitalism. Okay, now we're focused. Let's go. Okay. Subway. Okay, we're at the subway now. Yep. Okay, let me join a team. I'll go ahead and join allies. Let me turn that up a little bit. I just finished making a new map for this game. Rampage. How many people are on there? Whatever. You got a friend of mine from Estonia. He's trying to get me to play Fortnite. I said, screw that game. I'm going to play Fortnite. Well, the guy was in the doorway. Let me see. I'm going to go check the Discord real quick. See if he's in there. Don't switch. What did I say? No, he's not even online. Okay. I'm going to be done very soon anyway. Wow. What are you doing? Where am I killing? Oh, that would be perfect. This will be done in about 12 minutes. It's about all I need left for the stream today. What I'll do is for the next Mussolini video for next week, I'm going to try to find translations of that De Felice's books. I couldn't construct it. And I can find some of that and read some of that, too. Get people turned on to that and then put a link to the website, because supposedly there's some people translating it now. I don't know. Yeah, it seems kind of... I should be able to find that. Uh-huh. So it really peaked around 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's no texture on top of those. Wow, there's no texture up there. Killing spree.
Nope. Affirmative. Hmm.
Ah, he's up there. Hey, what? What? Wow. No. Let's see if we can win this one. Whoa. Well, that's what I'm doing. Come revive me.
Command post damaged. Killing spree. Killing spree.
Ah. They really got that truck covered there.
Killing spree.
Yep.
Killing spree.
Nope. Oh my goodness, what is that guy doing?
Hello. Hi. We repaired the truck. They damaged the truck.
Wow.
Thanks. Killing spree. We repaired the truck. Killing
Yeah.
spree. Damaged the truck.
Yeah, because I can hear the explosion from there.
We repaired the truck.
Yeah.
They damaged the truck. Rampage. Killing spree. Dynamite destroyed.
Oh, dynamite destroy. Oh, we won. Okay, 5 more minutes. I have my limit. Night final.
Prepare to fight. Thanks.
First blood. Killing spree. Fight.
Okay, fight. Oh my god.
First blood.
Guy's worthless.
Attack! Great shot!
Killing spree.
Yeah, don't panic. Just closing down the my Word file.
Negative.
Why aren't they moving the tank? The tank moves by itself. Huh? Yeah, you don't need to repair it. Did it blow the top of the church? Yeah. Uh-oh. Airstrike.
Killing spree.
The enemy's weakened.
Mm-hmm.
Landmine spotted. Check your command map. Great shot. Landmine spotted. Check your command map.
Wow.
Landmine spotted. Check your command map. Landmine spotted. Check your command map.
Let's see if I can build the command post before we quit.
Need a medic.
Killing spree.
Landmine spotted. Check your command map. Landmine spotted. Check your command map.
Whoops.
Dynamite planted. That'll work. Negative.
Okay, one more minute.
Dynamite diffused.
Dynamite diffused. I don't know about you, but this here really looks like shit. Look at that curve. Is this supposed to be even with the wall?
Killing spree.
I'm not quite sure how that...
Let's go.
I thought that's supposed to be... Nice.
Thank you. Need a medic. Bye.
Okay, that's it. We're finished for today. No more game. Yeah, it gets boring. But anyway, thanks for coming out. Hope you enjoyed today's video about the Mussolini's A New Life book by Nicholas Farrell. And join me for next week for another topic. And probably going to continue with the Mussolini topic. And then this Sunday, I'll be doing the model build. So you join me for that if you like. We'll see you next time.